revenue from contracts with customers. What is the agenda of this session? We will talk about the objective of the standard, scope of the standard, definitions, the 5 steps model. Then we will talk about the presentation in your financial statements. Objective. What is the objective of IFRS 15? Is to establish the principles that an entity shall apply to report useful information to user of the financial statement about what? About nature, amount, timing, and uncertainty of revenue and cash flows arising from contracts with the customer. What is the background of this standard? Previously, there were 2 standards. Those were dealing how to recognize your revenue from contracts with customer. One was IS 18, which was dealing with the revenue from general course of sales as well as dividends and interest you are receiving on your investments. And there was another standard that was IS 11, construction contracts. So over there was no unanimous treatment to recognize your revenue. For that purpose, this new standard, and it is also result of like IFRS 16 of convergence with IASB and US GAAP. International Accounting Standard Board and US GAAP have commonly issued these standards to give the same sort of. Please mute your voice, please. Students, please mute your voice. It is my humble request, kindly mute your voice. Scope. What is the scope for revenue from contracts with customers? It applies to all contracts with customers. It will apply to all contracts with customers except for leases, because that is a contract separately we have discussed under IFRS 16. Insurance contracts, which is dealt under IFRS 4, which is not in a scope of the syllabus of paper FR. It is discussed in strategic business reporting. Financial instruments we have discussed under their relevant standards, IS 32, IFRS 7, IFRS 9, and non-monetary exchange between entities in small lines of businesses. So all these areas, all sort of contracts with your customers, and the revenue which you are getting from those contracts is accounted for as per the rules of IFRS 15. Definitions. First one is of contract. Contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties that creates enforceable rights and obligations. Contract is an agreement between 2 or more parties, as we have discussed already. Then customer, a party that has contracted with an entity to obtain goods or services that are output of an entity's ordinary activities in exchange for consideration. Let's assume, what are the ordinary activities of WIFI? They are providing training and coaching services for professional certification students. Now, you guys are a customer because you are contracting with WIFI to get the services, which is normal output of entities' ordinary activities of WIFI in exchange of consideration. In form of consideration is in the form of payment which you are doing to them. Okay, so if that is happened, you are paying your fee to Wi-Fi, they are giving you the services. This is in that case, you are getting the services, you are the customer. Then income, increase in economic benefits during the accounting period in form of inflows or enhancement of assets or decrease of liability that result in an increase in equity other than those relating to contributions from equity participants. Who are equity participants? Shareholders, owners. If increase in equity is due to the contribution from shareholders, their company has issued the shares and they bought the shares and there is inflow, that will not constitute as income. But if your equity increased due to the provision of ordinary operations, goods or services, and due to that, overall assets of the entity goes up or its liabilities goes down. Let's assume, as being a trainer, I am representing Wi-Fi, and you have say enrolled yourself in one paper, and later on you asked to for refund that amount. So it means Wi-Fi has obligation to you, and Wi-Fi offered you that you should enroll in another course, and your fee is adjusted. And due to that, the liability of Wi-Fi goes down. That is Wi-Fi income. Okay. Performance obligation. A promise in a contract with a customer to transfer the customer either a good or service that is distinct or bundle of goods or services. Performance obligation is the promise in the contract with whom organization is promising with customer for what? That you will transfer to customer a good or a service or bundle of goods or services that is distinct, can be distinguished from others, or a series of distinct goods or services that are substantially the same and that have the same pattern of transfer to the customer. Or it could be one good or service, or could be series of goods or services. For instance, uh, uh, provision of uh, electricity to your to customer by the electricity provider. Same sort of good is provided from time to time on series of periods. Okay. Then revenue, income arising in the course of an ordinary activity. Revenue is any income which is arised in an ordinary course of activities. Income arise due to the activities which you are providing in your daily routine. Like Wi-Fi is providing the coaching to the students in ordinary, as ordinary activity in its daily routine. Then what is transaction price? This is the amount of consideration. Consideration is something in exchange of another promise to which an entity expects to be entitled in exchange for transferred promised goods or services. So transaction price is the amount which you are receiving against the promised goods or services to customer, which is excluding any amount which you have collected on behalf of third parties. For instance, this is what I want to explain you, amount collected on behalf of third parties. Let's assume, let's assume uh, you are working as a consignment agent. It means you are selling the goods on behalf of someone else. So in that case, if you are collecting the amount on behalf of someone else, that would not be constituted as your transaction price. Then 5 steps model. First one is identify the contract with the customer. Second thing is, even though examiner can ask you to sequence this model, identify the separate performance obligation in the contract. Then third step is determine the transaction price. Then fourth one step is allocate the transaction price to the separate performance obligations. And then fifth one is recognize revenue when and as the entity satisfies a performance obligation. Recognize revenue when or as the entity satisfies a performance obligation. Now, what are the 5 steps? First of all, identify whether you have contract with customer or not. Identify the different separate performance obligations in the contract, then determine the total transaction price of whole contract, then allocate the transaction price to different performance obligations which you have identified in step 2, and then check in final step whether that performance obligation has been satisfied or not. Once it is satisfied, then you will recognize your revenue. Step 1, identify the contract with customer. Agreement between the seller and buyer to provide goods and services in exchange of consideration. Once there is agreement, there is a contract. Contract could be oral, written, or implicit understanding between buyer or seller or customary practices. Now, what is customary practices? That is the practice which you are doing from previous time to time to time, and it is like a custom of that sort of business. Okay. Then what are the additional criteria? There is a commercial substance or not? But principally, this is the major element. Commercial substance, protective clause. It is commercially, there is a commercial value of that transaction or not? Commitment by the both parties. Here we will check whether the commitments made by the both parties are legal or not. Identify the rights of parties. Payment terms are identified, not necessarily fixed, and collection is probable. These are the subsidiary terminologies, conditions. Ultimately, if agreement exists between buyer and seller to provide goods and services in exchange for consideration, that is a contract. There is a contract. Identify the separate performance obligations in the contract. The entity must evaluate all the goods or services promised in the contract to determine whether there are separate performance obligations or not. How many obligations do you have in the products? First of all, 1 or 2 or 3. Identify how many performance do you obligations do you have. Then please mute your voice. How many obligations do we have in the product? 1, 2 or 3. Check. Is the product distinct? When it is distinct, when you can sell it separately, then it is distinct. Are you transferring an individual product or separate products? Only one product you are transferring, then only one performance obligation. If you are transferring many products and separately, then so many performance obligations do you have. Examples, coffee and bagels. It's a one contract, but we have 2 separate and independent product obligations. Contract is one. You ordered at a coffee shop, coffee and bagels. Okay, you ordered. coffee and bagel. It is a one contract. On the other side, you ordered large latte. It here products are interdependent or interrelated products, two separate products, but one obligation. Now, irrespective of two separate products, milk and coffee, but your obligation is same. You can't present it separately, but here coffee and bagels, this is bagel. So here one contract but two performance obligations, and here two separate products but only one obligations. So if you have two separate performance obligations, let's assume you just uh, served coffee to your client but still not served bagel, he can claim you the bagels, or he will subtract that amount from your total price. But in latte, it's only one performance obligation because you can't serve the both products separately. It is part of that one thing. Then you will determine the transaction price. If it's a cash transaction, say you went to the bookshop, you asked to the bookshop keeper to give you the Kaplan study text for paper FR, and you are making the cash payment over the counter. It's a very easy transaction. If you have deferred payments, you have deferred payments. In that case, discount to present value. You are supposed to discount it to present value. Then variable, there is a possibility that your cash involvement would be variable. Consideration is not fixed. Say you may have discounts, concessions, or rebates. In that case, you will use expected value and are most likely amount to determine the transaction price. Examples: XYZ construction company enters into a contract with the customer to build a warehouse for 200,000 with a performance bonus of 100,000 that will be paid based on timing of completion. The amount of performance bonus decreases by 5% per week every week beyond the agreed date. XYZ construction have already performed such type of contracts. On the basis of history, management believe that 70% probability is contract will complete on due date, 20% probability that contract will complete in 1 week delay, and 10% probability that contract will complete in 2 weeks delay. Now you will calculate the expected value for your bonus amount. How? 70% is will complete within one time period. So performance bonus is 100,000. 100,000 times 70% is equal to 70,000. 20% that it will be delayed to the next 1 week. So in that case, 5% will be decreased. So your net amount would be 95,000 times 20%. How much it comes? 95 times 0.2 is equal to 19,000. And then finally, it will again reduce by the 5%. So it is 90,000, and its probability is 10% is equal to 9,000. So you will make the total 70 plus 19 plus 9 is equal to 98,000. This is the expected value of your transaction price. Okay. Allocate the transaction price to separate performance obligations. Please mute your voice, students. Transaction price, excuse me, transaction price should be allocated to the separate performance obligations in proportion to the stand-alone price of each element of contract. Now, the total transaction price will be allocated to each performance obligations according to the proportion of their standalone price. What is the meaning of this standalone price? Standalone price means the price which you will charge if that would be the only contract, only performance obligation in the contract. Say example, cell phone and cellular connection for 2 years are, excuse me, mute your voice. Now, this is cell phone and cellular connection for 2 years. Now, what they are offering, say, let's assume they are giving you the package in 15,000. Excuse me. Otherwise, I will remove you guys from the class. Please mute your voice. Who is that? 15,000 is the price which you are offering. Now, if you will buy the cell phone individually, it can you get in 13,000. And your cellular connection for 2 years, you can get in 7,000. So if you will individually buy these two things, your total value would be 20,000. But in this one contract, you are getting these two sort of things, cellular connection for 2 years and cell phone in combo price, which is 15,000. Now you will allocate this to both performance obligations according to their proportion of their standalone value. For example, cell phone value will be calculated 15,000 divided by total value of standalone price 20,000 times 13,000. So in this portion it have been charged. So 15 divided by 20 times 13 is equal to 9,750. Now this price will be determined to cell phone, and once you delivered the cell phone to your customer, it will be recognized as your revenue. And now cellular connection for 2 years value would be connection equal to 7,000 divided by 20,000 times 15,000. Oh, sorry, it's times 13,000 because, oh, yes, times 15,000 because total price is 15,000. So 7 divided by 20 times 15,000 is equal to 5250. Now this is for 2 years contract, cellular connections. At the end of first year, you will recognize 50% of this because that performance obligation is satisfied. Like other example is of burgers. So you are going to McDonald's, they are giving you the deal where you have burger, where you have fries, where you have soft drink. So if you will buy separately, their price would be higher. So you will charge according to their standalone prices. Allocate the transaction price to separate performance obligation. Now, these are the approaches. Those are, I am a bit sure that examiner will never test in paper FR, but I'm just giving you the quick review. When goods or services are not sold separately, the transaction price must be allocated to separate performance obligation using reasonable approach. If you can't sold separately, it means you are not getting the standalone price. It can be sold only as a combination, as a combo group. In that case, you can allocate the price to different performance obligations on following of these three bases. Adjusted market assessment approach: check the price from the companies, those are competitor and providing the similar goods and services. Adjustments could be required. Or expected cost plus market approach: you will determine the total cost of every performance obligation plus desired profit margin. You will adjust. A residual approach: let's assume your total combo package is of 4 performance obligations. Out of these 4, for 2 performance obligations, you can determine the standalone price. And from that, you will determine the 2 performance obligations transaction price on the basis of standalone price, and remaining you will charge as a residual figure. Now, recognize the revenue when each separate performance obligation satisfied. First question is when satisfaction occurs. It could be in point in time or point over time. Now, point in time, if you have one single performance obligation, say as I discussed with you that you went to bookshop to buy the FR Kaplan study text. So over there, it is a point in time. Point over time where you have series of transactions to be performed over a time period will be checked from customer perspective, not from the seller perspective. It will always be checked through customer's perspective. What is the criteria to determine whether performance obligations are satisfied or not? First of all, after transferring goods or services, whether you as a seller has a right to payment of the asset, whether you have transferred your legal title of the asset, whether you have transferred physical possession of the asset, significant and risk and rewards of the assets transferred to the customer, and customer have accepted the asset, then you will say that performance obligation has been satisfied. And once it is satisfied, you will recognize your revenue. Recognize the revenue when each performance obligation is satisfied, as discussed earlier, specific point of time or over a period of time. It could be done. How it will be presented in your financial statements. Over there, in step 1, we will calculate the overall profit and loss. In step 2, determine the progress of the contracts. This is where you have series of performance obligations events to be occurred. Presentation in statement of profit and loss, and presentation in statement of financial position. So this occurs normally when you have construction contracts. First of all, you will calculate the overall profit or loss of your whole project. Then how it will be calculated: contract price, which you have determined for the whole series of performance obligations. Then you will subtract your cost of contract. Now keep in mind, if you have loss could be recognized immediately. How cost of contract is determined: cost incurred to date, which you have actually incurred, plus estimated cost of completion of that project, subtracted. If your revenue contract price is greater than your cost, that is your profit. And if your cost is greater than your contract price, that is your loss. Then determine the progress of contract. Over there, two methods are used. One is input method and the other is output method. Normally, this method is used, which is a simple, you will calculate the stage of completion by a contract cost incurred to date as percentage of total expected cost. And output method is, it would be determined what is the value of the work certified to date as a percentage of total contract price. But if your revenue pattern is same over the period of time, in that case, you can recognize your revenue on straight line basis. If you cannot determine the progress either through input method, either through output method, in that case, you will recognize your revenue only to the extent of contract cost incurred that will probably be recoverable. The cost which you have incurred till now, you will only recognize the revenue according to up to the limit of that cost. Now, how it will be presented in your statement of profit and loss? First of all, revenue. Total price times percentage of progress till today minus revenue recognized in previous period. That would be your revenue. Then cost of sales. Total cost times percentage of progress minus cost charged in previous period. Remaining is your profit figure. Then presentation in statement of financial position. At the end of every year, either you have contract asset or you have contract liability, and its calculation is done through this formula. Cost incurred to date. For these things, you are supposed to cram these formulas. Plus profit to date, which we have calculated in previous slides. Last to date, less amount billed to date, the amount for which you have issued the bill to your customer, and the remaining would be your current asset or current liability related to revenue from contracts with customers. That's it for today's session. Tomorrow we will discuss some other areas like we will discuss provisions and contingent liabilities, ratios analysis, statement of cash flows, and consolidated financial statements. Those areas we will discuss in tomorrow's session.